I want to bring Rainey York. She is just fabulous. I don't know if any of you know about Reiki, and none of us know much about it. So she's actually going to read from her book and share with us one-on-one with Reiki. And and before she gets there, she's also our sponsor for the health and wellness upcoming virtual conference. So thank you for your sponsorship. We can't do without our sponsors. Like, thank you, Donna, for sponsoring today. And so she's going to play a big part in the health and wellness event. Maybe I can get her to do a master class in Reiki. So without further ado, thank you again, and we will see more of Rainey throughout this month and next, because she's sponsoring the Women Business Empowerment as well. So thank you for your sponsorship. So Rainey, tell us about your book and tell us about Reiki.
Well,
and I forgot to record. Hold on.
Can you hear me? Because I couldn't see any of those slides last time. Are we working like we should be?
Yes.
Okay.
We can all see you perfectly.
Okay. Well, this is my book, and it always throws me to see it back on the computer screen because it's backwards. I'm assuming it's forwards for you guys.
Yes, we're seeing you fine.
Quantum Leap is the title. It's a young adult fiction book, but it does touch briefly on Reiki and some other energy and healing modalities that's woven into the thread of the story. And what I thought I would do tonight was to read you a short chapter which introduces Reiki to a couple of my characters. So for some backstory, Rebecca Jean is my main character, and she is frustrated because she doesn't think she has any control in her own life, and there's too many rules. And I certainly remember feeling that way as a teenager. If you remember back to those years, you probably did too. So she writes stories, fiction stories, to create a reality that she prefers. And in this story, her main character, I have a cat on my lap. She picks the most perfect time to come and sit. Rebecca Jean writes stories about Lainey, who's with it and moxie and fearless and does all the things that Rebecca's afraid to do. And one day she writes a different kind of story. Frustrated and furious, she writes a story of revenge, and she is stunned when it comes true. So her fiction unfolds in her everyday reality as truth. Now, a little later on in the book, she's been dealing with this, but one of her best friends, who is all about horses, at her uncle's ranch where she spends every moment she can, there's a lame horse. And roundabout, Sam hears about Reiki and comes to understand that Rebecca's mom knows something about it. So the girls have come to talk to Mrs. Colson, who is Rebecca's mother. And the title of this chapter is Reiki 911. Rebecca and Sam let themselves into the house and dropped their stuff in the mudroom. They could hear the murmur of Maggie Colson's voice coming from the office. "Do you want a snack or something?" asked Rebecca. Sam shook her head. Rebecca's mom looked up with a smile when Rebecca and Sam stopped in her doorway. She gestured toward two comfortable-looking chairs opposite her desk, and the girls sat down. "Becca, Sarah Ann." Maggie assessed them. "You two look like you've had a hard day," she said. "Are you feeling better, Becca?" "I'm really glad today's over." Rebecca cradled her casted arm in her good hand, leaning gratefully into the soft cushions of her chair. Sam got right to the point. "We have a lame horse at the ranch," she said. "The vet thinks it might be a bruise, but it hasn't healed." Sam paused. "She's due to pull any time. Plus, she's a favorite of Uncle Clint, or else..." Sam's voice cracked. "It's the one Lissa told us about," Rebecca said. "They'd have already..." But she couldn't say it either. "We've tried herbal wraps," said Sam. "There's an old woman, she's Cook's mother, actually, and she does a lot of..." Sam looked apologetically at Maggie and didn't finish. "So you want to know about Reiki?" Maggie could get right to the point as well. Sam nodded. Well, I could talk about Reiki for hours, said Maggie. She smiled. Excuse me. There are thousands of practitioners and literally hundreds of hospitals use it now. At its minimum, it reduces stress and anxiety. At its best, it produces miracles. Most of the time, it's somewhere in between those two. But what is it? Asked Sam. Reiki is life force energy or God force energy. Ancient and indigenous societies all have a cultural definition for life force energy of some sort. Western culture does not, at least beyond with it you're alive, without it you're dead, she grimaced. How does it work? Asked Sam. A very good question. Are you familiar with acupuncture? Yeah, Sam perked up. My mom had it done. Aunt Jo wanted to try that, but she couldn't find anyone to do it on magic. Maggie nodded. Reiki has some similarities to acupuncture, she said. It's based on the premise that we're all vibrational beings, light beings, if you're into Yoda and Star Wars, energy. Everything is just energy vibrating at different frequencies. I wouldn't say it's totally mainstream thinking yet, but the concept is supported by quantum physics and quantum biology. Dis-ease, dysfunction, pain, they're caused when the energies are out of balance or blocked. Acupuncture and Reiki both seek to return the energies to proper balance and flow. When that happens, the body heals itself. Maggie paused to let the information sink in. Sam was listening intently. And it works the same for animals as for people? Some practitioners think even better. Maggie looked at Rebecca, who raised her eyebrows. Then to Sam again, she said, people tend to have preset notions about what can work and what can't work. And they unconsciously block anything new or that they don't understand. Animals don't carry all that negative baggage. They're far more intuitive. So do you know anyone who does this, who does Reiki on animals? Actually, I do. Rebecca's eyebrows went a little higher. I've done some checking around, said Maggie. Sam had the resolute look in her eyes. Who can do this? Learn Reiki, I mean. And can anyone do it? Pretty much, said Maggie. How do you learn it? You take a series of classes. There are typically 3 levels. At level 2, you're ready to start taking clients. Clients? Practicing Reiki, said Maggie. I want to do it, said Sam. How long do the classes take? Maggie looked surprised, but she didn't miss a beat. Well, that depends on the master teacher, she said, and the student's background. For someone with limited alternative healing knowledge, usually about 8 to 10 months. The actual classes for each level can be done in a day. Most teachers prefer to have at least a month between level 1 and level 2 classes, but you can give Reiki with a level 2. So you mean it would only be a month before I could do it? Potentially, yes. Is it really expensive? A note of doubt had crept into Sam's voice. I have some money, but not like, thousands of dollars. Not anymore, said Maggie. Reiki classes used to be very expensive, but not anymore, she repeated. Now Sam looked uncertain. She fidgeted in her chair and pushed her tousled blonde hair from her face with both hands. Maggie waited for Sam to go on. Sam said finally, are the classes hard? Maggie smiled. No, Sarah Ann, not at all. And they aren't like typical school classes. Most of us involved with Reiki feel like the learning is a lifelong process, but it's more like learning how to know yourself than it is about learning from books and how to work with energy. Are you a Reiki practitioner? Yes, I hold Reiki Master Certification in 2 methods. Rebecca gaped. You do? Her mother shrugged. I've been doing Reiki since before I began with alternative medicine. It's what led me there. Reiki is part of CAM? Rebecca asked. She was still stunned. A very significant part, said her mother. Do you do it? Demanded Rebecca. I don't have a client list per se, said Maggie, but yes, I do it every day. How come I never knew this? There was a sharp edge to Rebecca's tone. You know it now, said her mother, but the time wasn't appropriate before, said Maggie. Could you teach me? Sam broke in eagerly. I could, technically, said Maggie, but I think I'd be more inclined to connect you with just the right person, other than me, she said with a smile. And you'd do that? Of course, Maggie considered for a moment. In fact, I think April Lowry would be just the right teacher for you, if she has the time, that is. Rebecca's jaw dropped again. You mean Nana's April? She does this too? Maggie laughed. April is an exceedingly complex and talented woman, and those talents are far-reaching. She looked levelly at Rebecca. Nana is a Reiki master too. Rebecca just stared. I love April. There was wonderment in Sam's voice. I could be ready to do Reiki in a month? She tapped a long blue nail against her lips. This just might work out. A month, more or less, from your first class, yes, Maggie said. Sam got abruptly to her feet. Thanks so much, Momsy. You may have just saved the life of an innocent horse. Sam's laugh was giddy. She turned to Rebecca. I have to go. I have some things to do. Rebecca could only nod. This was all too much. Her mother, April, Nana, all this Reiki stuff, and Sam. Geez, Sam doing it. This was really, well, Rebecca wasn't sure what. At the door, Sam turned back. If I can't get started right away for some reason, or if I don't finish in time, could you or April or someone you know work on magic for me? For us, she corrected. In time? Maggie raised her eyebrows. Yeah, said Sam, and her voice was hard. Well, that foal still needs its mother. Of course, said Maggie. We'll begin immediately. We? There's a group of us. We have what we call a Reiki 9-1 network for just this sort of thing. Accidents, sick children, dogs with snake bite. Maggie's smile was soft. Lame horses. I'll make some calls. Sam stared hard at Maggie, and then she crossed the office and threw her arms around her neck. Oh my God, she whispered. You don't know what you've done for me. There were tears in Sam's eyes when she rushed from the office. Yes, I do, said Maggie Colson softly. Oh, yes, I do. The front door slammed shut. Rebecca and her mother looked at each other.
Wow. That was a lovely book reading, wasn't it? That's awesome.
For some reason, that chapter moves me emotionally every time I read it. And part of it is, I think, because of the way I feel personally about Reiki. Reiki has been transformational for me in terms of my own life, and it's going to be different for every person who gets involved with it, because it's just based on the individual. So anyway, that's part of.
I thought it was just very moving. So make sure that you put in the chat where people can get the book and where people can set up a Reiki session, or if you want to book Renee to speak at your next event. So just put your information in the chat so that they can find you. And also, when I share the video on YouTube, make sure you write a comment so people know where to go. So my next speaker is also my sponsor for my health and wellness virtual event. Thank you so much. And Anne has written a very empowering, it's also a fiction novel. So this is an interesting night. So Anne, I'm going to leave it to you. And if you want to share your slides, you know how to do that.
Okay, I will be happy to. Actually, clarification, my book is not fiction. It's my story. And my name is Anne Woodbury, and I'm the author of Surviving Myotonic Dystrophy, A Mother's Struggle to Care for Her Family with a Rare Disease. I have a bachelor's degree in child and family relationships, and I got that before I had my family. I wanted to be the best mother, and so I studied that, not realizing that I would have children that didn't fit into typical family and child relationships, could never figure out why things weren't the way they were supposed to be, that I was told in college, you know. So in 1998, my husband and all four of our children, the oldest was 20 and the youngest was 7, were diagnosed with a rare disease. It's called myotonic dystrophy. I like to say that this is my cause, my hope, myotonic, if that helps you remember it. Myotonic dystrophy is found in 1 in every 2,100 people, but only 1 in every 8,000 get diagnosed. Many of those with myotonic dystrophy live on the margins of society, unable to hold down a job and struggling with multiple symptoms, all while lacking the basic motivation, energy, and executive function that most of us take for granted and which is necessary to get themselves diagnosed and treated. My family has DM and we passed it on 100%. It gets worse in each generation, so we didn't know that my husband had it until all 4 children were diagnosed. So this is that's glossy there. Is that showing up okay?
Yes, it is.
So this is my family. And out of all of them, I'm the only one that does not have myotonic dystrophy. It's probably a new term to most of you. Most doctors don't even know about it. It's one of the over 40 muscular dystrophies. When you think of Jerry's kids, Jerry Lewis and his September telethon, I can't remember, I think that's what it was called. There's like 40 muscular dystrophies and myotonic is one of them. But it affects more systems in the body than any disease. And the most difficult part to understand is the way that it affects the brain. Most muscular dystrophies only affect the muscles, but this affects the brain. So Elizabeth, are you going to be able to put my, where to find my book in for me?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
And that is tough. Now, I have a question. So everybody has it except you. Do you know why that is? Is it genetic? Or?
Yes, it's genetic.
Okay.
And so
that is tough. Yeah, that's a tough place to be. And I applaud you for writing a book because it's powerful. It's really powerful. You've and I can't wait to read it. So I know it's on its way. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Yes, it's like I say, most doctors don't know about it. If they heard it in school, they just heard myotonic dystrophy, one of the muscular dystrophies. They may have heard that that if a mother has a baby that's floppy, hypotonic, that doesn't have any muscle tone, then you would have the mother shake your hand. And when the doctor shakes the mother's hand, it's possible that she would show myotonia. So in my kids, if they squeeze their hand tight like this and then they go to open it, it kind of opens really slow. Or if you tap them right here, you can tap mine and nothing happens, but you tap theirs and the muscle, it goes forward. So what happens is the muscles keep firing and they don't stop firing. So it affects all kinds of things like digestion, many issues, but the most confusing has been about the brain. And so I've tried to tell about it, and I've had several doctors endorse my book. In fact, the neurologist that first worked with my family has endorsed it, along with a neuropsychologist in Quebec. But my story, I believe, is well told. That it's only been out on Amazon for about 2 weeks, but the feedback that I'm getting is that it's really enthralling, and I don't tell it from a medical point of view. I tell it from a mother's point of view.
And what we're hoping to do at the Health and Wellness event is we have a number of mother organizations. I worked with the Motherhood Foundation that has a museum. They were in New York, but I think they moved. And I'm going to get with the founder. In fact, we have a meeting this week to see how we can involve some motherhood and mother events around you. So I think this is going to be a very powerful story. And I think many mothers can relate to it. You know I was 15 and I lost my brother at 17. And my mother was just devastated. And, so I do know that these are very tough when you see your child suffering and all that. So I applaud you for writing the book and for coming out of it to inspire others. And that's always very precious. So I have put her information in the chat. So if anybody's interested in buying the book prior to the Health and Wellness event and joining her session at the conference, please do so, because it's going to be one of my most powerful sessions. So thank you for that. Are you going to share slides, or shall I bring the next speaker on?
Either way, do I have more time?
Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay. So
you're the newbie, as they say.
Yes,
you get
that's
privileges.
very much me. So this is my, just a brief summary, but I pretty much, well, one of the things that I want to inform people about is how it affects the motivation and the fatigue. When I first started learning about this, and then I was in a group chat and I asked everyone, can you tell me about the fatigue? And everybody says it's the worst part. There's extreme fatigue. My kids take multiple stimulants and they still fall asleep. In fact, I've dedicated my book to those that fall asleep at support group. So that was appropriate. Let me pull up another screen. Oh, so this that I want to share with you, hoping it's coming up. There we go. So does it show, oops, let's make it smaller. There we go. So in 1998, my family, my husband and all 4 children who are now adults, were diagnosed with a rare disease. And you can see that it was shattering. The thing that was incredible was actually the diagnosis was not shattering. It was raising these kids. Again, the oldest was 20 and the youngest was 7. And we ended up homeschooling them because they were bright, but they couldn't stay awake. And we just had all these issues with them. And so the diagnosis was actually a relief once we found some answers. The other thing is, how do you take care of yourself when you're a mother dealing with this? And so I've tried to, in my book, tell what sorry, I was trying to get that to open. Okay, there we go. See if I can make that a little smaller. Oh, okay, I think you can see that. One of the things that I would like to share with people, because we all deal with hardships, and how do you take care of yourself through it all? And I've developed what I consider a technique that I didn't realize I was using all while I was raising my children, but it's really about taking Maslow's hierarchy. If you can remember that from any of your past schooling, I'm gonna show you. So Maslow's hierarchy right here. At the bottom is your physiological needs, food, water, warmth, and rest. And then next is your safety. The next level up is belongingness and love. And then the next is esteem needs, and the top is self-actualization. And so as I learned about this in school, I remember just, assuming we all want self-actualization. So of course I live in this wonderful country where I have food and warmth, but so I don't need to take care of that, and I'm safe. So I was just always thinking that I should be focusing on achieving my full potential, never realizing that going back to the base, it's all about the base, is how I could take care of myself. For instance, and so there's an acronym called HALT, and the H stands for hunger, the A stands for anger, the L stands for loneliness, and the T stands for tired. But we can be hungry for more than just food. We can be hungry for some adult interaction if we're raising kids. We can be hungry for some time alone. And so my premise is that instead of always working for this self-actualization, that we need to go back to the very basics of hunger, anger, lonely, and tired, and figure out if you, let's say you've had enough sleep, but you might be tired of the fact that you're not doing something creative. If we can go back to those basics, then we can take care of our own needs. People would always tell me, you need to take care of yourself. And I couldn't figure out what that meant. Does it mean take a bubble bath? I never felt better after a bubble bath. I was clean. So finally I came up with the realization that it's really about figuring out at our basic core what we're neglecting.
Wow, that is so powerful. In fact, we had a vision board workshop with the group, and I'd like to bring that slide back, because that is like, how do you find balance when everything around you? And I know that being a caregiver, you kind of feel so defeated because the disease is so much more powerful than you.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, you have to come out of you and blossom and be strong for everyone. So your
Yes.
strength and your courage has really inspired me today, and I know it's inspired everybody. So
you.
that is wonderful. That's awesome. All right. So I now have a poet, and this has been the first time in our group that we've had a poet. And I love poetry. I studied English literature, and I just love poets. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and please do share your poems, and tell us a little bit more about you. And don't forget to put in the chat how we can get a copy of your book.
Hi, I am Alita Hayes. I love the Lord with all my heart, and I love how He is using me. I have been writing poetry basically the majority of my life, and my poems was written for family and friends for special occasions, funerals, birthdays, anything, it didn't matter. I used to write just for fun. But as my relationship grew with God and it started manifesting, my poems went from pleasure to purpose. My book, Inspirational Poetry, it has a whole bunch of poems in it to inspire. It's inspirational poetry to prick your heart, convict your soul, and renew your mind. And in here, most of them are scripture reflected, and to reiterate the love and the compassion that God has for us. Because when you talk about love, you can't talk about it without talking about God, because God is love.
That's right.
And I would like to share one or maybe two of my poems with you guys.
We'd love that. Yes.
This is entitled Do Not Stay. David said, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, he did not say I stay, nor set up camp or build a house or find somewhere for his head to lay. But in effect, the valley is not your home. Don't get discouraged, don't give in. Keep the faith and hold on tight, even though it appears to be bleak from where you have been. Although life will throw things at you, it will sometimes be hard, unfair, and brittle. But cling on tight to your determined faith and don't settle for the middle. You have to trust and you have to believe God is a God of the middle, not just the end. And even though you may not understand right now, on Him you need to lean and depend. Do not get stuck in the middle of your valley. Keep moving forward. God's in control. He'll set you free. And this tribulation that you're going through is just one more step towards your destiny. Though you may walk through the valley of the shadow of death, keep walking through as you pray, trusting and knowing God never left your side. Rest if you must, but do not stay.
That was really good. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm sure this one. Are you a squeezer or a pleaser? Are you a squeezer or a pleaser? This is the question for today. Do you take the time to get to know God, or are you even too busy to pray? To answer this question, one must first be honest with self. Is God a major part of your day, or is he placed upon a shelf? How you use each moment is a choice. He's either in the moment or pushed aside. You can't just squeeze him into your life. He has to dwell within you and abide. Many people try to make practicing the presence of God into a part-time job, but God must be present in all moments. What is not just is just yourself that you rob. Quality time is more important to God than a quantity of such. He wants you to know him deeply. He loves you just that much. There's no limit to how good life can be. When God is first, he is pleased. Be full time, praise him every day, and your time with him won't be squeezed. Try to be more of a pleaser. It's the time, not the amount. But God can't be squeezed into your life. He only can be squeezed out.
Whoa. That really makes you want to pray. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. So I'm going to bring Donna. I'm going to, well, for those of you watching this video, don't forget to go to www.brightsideglobaltrade.org. You can get all these videos, and I will make sure that we give you links to all these books. And definitely write a comment. And if you do purchase any of the books, take a picture and show it to us so that we know how you enjoyed the book. And also, we would love for you to write a comment. We are giving away tickets to the conference, the Health and Wellness, and all of the 11 conferences. So if you write us a comment, we will definitely reward you. So please do that. So www.brightsideglobaltrade.org. Thank you for watching.